Hello everybody, welcome back to another custom Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, we are doing something a little bit different, and we are going to be designing an entire custom Magic the Gathering set. So in the past, I've done projects like Magic the Marveling, which is a set of cards, but it's more a collection of individual card designs. And in this series, because this is going to be a series, we are going to be designing a set from the ground up, starting with this video, which is largely going to be ideas, concepts, themes, and all of that, and moving on to designing specific cards. And this set is going to kind of function exactly like a normal set would. It's going to be draftable. It's going to have the right amount of cards. It's going to, have side products even, and we're going to design this. We're going to give it a logo. We're going to give it a lot of different things. And so this is going to be a pretty long series, but that is kind of my goal for the end of this, is to have a set that would almost look like something that Wizards of the Coast would release. And that's a big, aspiration, and I know that it's going to take a while to get there. So starting in today's video, we are going to be talking about the concepts behind this set that I've already come up with. This is going to be a living, breathing thing. I do not have the whole set designed, and I'm just releasing parts of it, as I go. Like, for instance, with Magic the Marveling, a lot of the time I'm many movies ahead of what I'm releasing. But with this, I am kind of presenting you with everything I have here today. I have a document, and so what I want to happen is I want this to be kind of a community thing. I want for you guys to give me your opinions in the comments down below, and we're gonna kind of take a look at the set as a whole and make adjustments as needed, and I'm really excited for this. So presenting to you my concept for a set: Nekorb Sparkbound. So Nekorb Sparkbound is a set that takes place on a new plane named Nekorb, and this plane is Sparkbound. And essentially what that means is, because, when designing a set, you kind of need an idea and a gimmick even. And so, like, if you look at past Magic sets, we have Ravnica, Legions of Ravnica, and War of the Spark, just for some recent sets. Those were, a return to an existing plane. And I really didn't feel like I should be doing a return to an existing plane, because I didn't create that plane. I feel like those weren't my things to make cards for necessarily, especially in this way. So I decided, I want a new plane. So that would be something similar to Ikoria, or Kaldheim, where it's a plane that we've never seen before, and there's kind of a gimmick or something that's going on. So with, for instance, Kaldheim, the recently released set, the gimmick was kind of the different tribes and, foretelling and all of that, and that it's a Viking plane. That's the idea behind the plane. Now, Nekorb doesn't necessarily have, it's a Viking plane, it's a Japanese-inspired plane, it's a this-inspired plane. It just has a little bit of lore behind it that the whole set is kind of built around, and here's kind of what I wrote about it. The first Planeswalker Spark to awaken on Nekorb bound that Spark's controller to the land. As the Planeswalker does things or feels things, the plane adjusts. For example, if the Planeswalker gets cold, the land will also get cold. But it may also work the other way around, where if the land gets cold, so does the Planeswalker. So this is kind of the idea that this whole plane is built around this one Planeswalker who, when their Spark awoke, it kind of bound them to the plane where they are now connected. And so, if they were to die, it would perhaps kill the plane. And so that's where you kind of get this conflict of the story. And, I had a couple different names. I had, Nekorb, Plane of Chaos, Nekorb, Sparkbound. I came up with a couple different plane names. I settled with Nekorb. But yeah, and then I went through my brainstorming process, and I'm like, okay, so what are we going to actually need for this set? Well, I'm aiming for 249 cards in this set, with 101 commons, 60 uncommons, 53 rares, 15 mythics, and 4 of each type of basics. And then I'm looking to do collector boosters and designing what will be in those, buy a box promos, bundle promos, promo cards, alternate art styles, everything that you would see with a normal set. And then, yeah, that's kind of the overhead. But in terms of looking at the set, I wanted to design a couple ideas for themes. And this was actually designed a little bit before Kaldheim was announced. So this has been in the works for a little while now. But the themes that I kind of came up with were that the lands and the creatures had interactions, and the elves, because there'd be elves on this plane. But now that Keldheim has elves, I'm thinking maybe we go with a different tribe that doesn't have many cards in it, like dryads, for instance. But some sort of nature-loving creature. They love the land, and so they protect the planeswalkers. They are kind of the people who see this planeswalker not almost as like a god to them, because their kind of life force and stuff is kind of bound to this land, and so is the planeswalker. And so they think that lands are good. But then there's also the Minotaur barbarians, which don't necessarily think properly. They want to see the land burn, and so they kind of hate the land. They create assaults on the planeswalker, and then the elves have to protect. And then humans, because most Magic sets have humans, love artifacts and don't trust the land. They don't really care if the land dies or doesn't. They're kind of in the middle, but they just want to survive, and so they try to use artifacts to kind of go above the land. And so they're going to care about like using artifacts to generate mana, or just not necessarily relying on lands. And I thought that was kind of an interesting concept. And originally I was going to have shapeshifters invade all three groups, because I thought, oh, that's a tribe we don't see that often, but we just saw it in Keldheim. And so to differentiate it, I think I'm going to change it up. I want to do some sort of weird creature type, and it could be a new creature type, it could be one we've already seen, it could be Eldrazi, it could be Phyrexians, it could be a lot of different things. But I want a group that can kind of invade the land as a foreign force, and maybe in the end the elves and minotaurs and humans have to come together to fight off this force to defend the land, something like that. Or maybe the elves and the humans come together. But that's kind of my idea for the big like themes and tribes of it. Of course, mechanics, I want one called Connection, where it's something to do with an ability that affects creatures and planeswalkers based on lands. And I don't know exactly, I don't have like an exact wording for that. That may come in the next video, but I don't know. I was thinking maybe a new version of Overload, because I really like Overload, and maybe it's something that like replaces you with target opponent or something like that. So I want to take something to do with Connection. I want to do something that's just fun and seems fun to design around, and then maybe we see a returning mechanic like Kicker or Landfall, or something along those lines. We will see. We'll get more specifically into mechanics and stuff in a future video. In terms of planeswalker names, I came up with a couple, but I figured Drake Planebound will be the one who is bound to the plane. And then we have Ayastin, Resistant Follower, and he's kind of a secondary planeswalker that isn't necessarily all powerful and kind of wants to take Drake's place. And obviously, this has gone through a lot of revisions, and of course, if you guys have any suggestions, leave them in the comments down below. For elves, I wanted to break down the colors, because I want to make sure that all colors had some sort of representation, and I actually decided that elves would kind of go a little bit different than they normally do. They're actually going to be green, blue, and white, so they're going to be 3-color elves, kind of going into colors that they don't always go into. But Minotaur Barbarians are going to be red and black, and then humans are going to be blue, red, and colorless. That way they have a color of each. They have a color of the elves, a color of the minotaurs, and then something kind of unique. And so I'm thinking the set will feature specifically colorless mana within it, as well as a returning kind of thing. And then going through just as some last little information, I'm thinking for the limited themes, because you may have seen my recent video covering this with Keldheim, but most sets have a theme for each 2-color combination. And I wanted to do some that are a little more interesting. So we have white and blue being activated abilities, and this could be something of artifacts. It could be something with lands. It's just something that cares about activated abilities. These are all really probably going to change, but as of now, I'm thinking blue-black is going to be caring about the opponent's graveyard. Black-red is going to care about the damage opponent has taken. Red-green is going to care about your opponent's lands. Green-white is going to care about tokens, all types, and I'm assuming I'm going to make some land token cards. White-black is going to care about cards in exile. Blue-red is going to care about artifacts. Black-green is going to care about creatures dying. Red-white is going to care about small creatures, and green-blue is going to care about lands mattering to creatures. So those elves are probably going to be mostly in green-blue with a little bit of white in there as well, which then leads to kind of like lands mattering to creatures and activated abilities, which can kind of work well together. And maybe we have connection be an activated ability, so then it lends into that. And yeah, so I think that that's really, really interesting. I think that there is a couple things I might change in here. For instance, we saw this thing with excess damage in Kaldheim, and I kind of want to explore that a little bit more. So maybe we change out like artifacts mattering, and kind of move that in there. And maybe I do need to make some colorless themes as well. We'll have to see, but that's pretty much everything I've come up with. I want to know what you guys think. In the future, we're going to go a little bit more specific. We're going to probably in the next video talk a little bit more specifically about what these overarching themes are. We're going to talk a little bit about the mechanics, probably the colors of the planeswalkers, and just the really big overhead design things that you need to know before designing anything. And then it'll probably be the third video in the series where we get the first card designs, and those will probably be each of the 2 color combination uncommons, even to just kind of make the rest of the stuff kind of follow after. So yeah, I want to know what you guys think about all of this. What do you think should be changed? What do you like? All of that in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.